Alright, so I want to make a quick video on the fog machines that come with these remotes. I don't want to just sit there and have to click this, especially when like trick-or-treaters are coming and you have it set up outside. Like, that's just annoying. So what I'm going to do is, and I haven't seen this online anywhere, nobody's come up with a solution that's not overly complicated. You can go the whole programming route and blah blah blah, but this, hopefully, if everything works, should be a lot more straightforward. All you really need is these like fairly cheap motion detector chime things. Like, a lot of businesses will use this, or even at home. Anytime this motion sensor just takes I believe AAA batteries, detects motion, it'll chime on here. It'll make a noise, the lights will light up and all that stuff. You can get I got a 2-pack one, so it has 2 of the motion sensors. That way I can have it facing 2 different directions, so if kids are coming from one side or the other, it'll activate the fog machine. And this is what we're going to tap into. So you need that setup. I think if you get 1 motion sensor, it's like 20 bucks. If you get 2, it's like 30 bucks. It's super cheap. The other thing you need are some solid state relays. We're going to try this. I'm going to see how this works. Again, this is all experimental. You need some basic wires. I already have these. I use these for like lipo cells for like drones and stuff. But essentially, one is a female, one's a male. That way, we're going to hack into this remote, hack into here, make it so that anytime this gets power or turned on or chimes, essentially it's triggering the button to start the fog. So the reason I'm using disconnects here, so that if I want to detach it, it's not permanently mounted to this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and open this. It's 1 screw. And we're going to open this. It is 4 screws. So there's 1, 2. And let's see if I can do this with one hand. And 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets opened. And I'm going to do some testing, check some voltages, and see where I can tap into. And this is a solid state relay. So essentially all this is doing, it's acting like a relay or a switch. So when you apply power to 2 of these pins, it's going to, instead of being normally open, it's going to close these 2 pins. So then these 2 pins get connected internally. So it's acting like a switch. So anytime you give power over here on these 2, this gets connected. Okay, so that's the theory. We're going to take everything apart and see what we can tap into. All right, so after taking these apart, this is straightforward. You have the top pin and the bottom pin. So when you press the switch, it just connects those 2 pins. So you can see, let me see if I can find something to point with. So it connects this pin to that pin whenever you click that switch. So all we need to do is connect 1 wire here, 1 wire here. This side is easier. As far as over here, without taking it apart too much, the only place I seem to be getting the right amount of voltage, which I need like 3 volts or above, is on the LED right here. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky to solder, especially if you're not comfortable with soldering. So essentially we need to solder one of the wires to one of these pins on this side, and then the other wire needs to be soldered to, I believe, that top pin up there. So that's the only place where I'm getting like 3 to 4 volts, which is needed for that solid state relay. And what I could do is just try to remove that entire SMD. That might make it easier, but let's see if I can just get those wires soldered to the sides. So essentially what we need to do is we're going to solder the 2 wires coming out of here. And again, you can use any type of wire because they first need to go to the solid state relay. So I'm just going to take like something like this. I have some extra of this wire laying around. One side will go, let's do the right way. So I believe negative is on this side, on the right side, and then positive is all these different pins. So each one of those pins dictates a certain color. So it's like blue, red, green, I think. So I'm gonna put the black wire on that top pin up there, and then red on one of those pins over here, and then then the other end of that wire goes to the solid state relay, this one. So it's going to be used on the trigger side. Okay, so that gets connected there, and then from here I'm going to solder most likely this one to this side like that, and then this one will be soldered like this to one to each pad here. I'll find or file a hole on the side or something to have this poking out, and then hopefully when the light blinks it activates the relay, which then connects the contacts or whatever inside, and essentially presses the switch without physically having to press this switch. All right, so that's the plan. Let me start to solder and see what happens there. All right, so this is on the remote side. So you can see these are the pins that I soldered to. I actually found an empty pad right there that is actually connected to this pad. So there's continuity. And then I just soldered to that leg of this momentary switch. But you can also just put that black one on this top leg, whatever you prefer. But those two are connected internally. So that's what that looks like. And then I just kind of melted the plastic a little bit to get this wire out. Okay. Now on this side, I had to do a change of plans. So instead of using a solid state relay, this one is good for if you're using a microcontroller or something like that, but ignore all that. Don't worry that I said microcontroller. This is simple. This is a pretty basic relay switch. I'm going to put the link in the description. The soldering for this is a bit more complex. Not that it's complicated as far as like you have to do anything crazy, but just getting to those specific pins. So ignore the colors. I actually found out that RGBs are they have the positive, or the anode is on the top right over here. So you'll see there's like this little corner that has like a little cutout. Okay, so opposite of that is the anode. Okay, that's your positive. And then all of these on this side, let's see if I could get any better of an image. There's 3 pins there. You're gonna need some flux to be able to solder to one of those pins, and then you're gonna route the wire down. So I just chose the bottommost pin right there. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3. I just chose that one, and that's your negative. Okay, so essentially RGB works that has 3 different legs on this side, so red, green, blue. It doesn't matter which one. I just picked the one that gave me the higher voltage, and then the positive is constant on that side. Okay, so anyways, then you're gonna route that, and I just routed it kind of through this little hole and out of this battery compartment. Now if you're planning on using batteries, then you want to probably route it outside. It's up to you. I'm planning on just having it plugged into a USB-C somewhere. That's, it's easy enough to do that, just so I can hide this away somewhere. I'm going to hide this inside of the battery compartment. All that's left now to do is I'm going to put the female end on the other side. So this relay simply just works when it gets a positive and negative. It will click this relay on and off. So I'm going to connect this on this side, and then the other end is going to get connected to the remote. And essentially all it's going to do is anytime the LED is blinking, it's telling this remote, the switch essentially is acting like somebody's pushing that switch. Okay, so let me go ahead and solder everything up, and then I'll show you how it's working. And yeah, you'd also be able to kind of hear the clicking as well. So okay, so soldered the wire on the other side. I melted a little bit of the plastic here, cleaned it up just so I can get that wire out, and we're gonna go ahead and connect it and test it. All right, so everything is all buttoned up. Other than the LED part, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, if you have the parts and you practice soldering a little bit, I think it's about like a 15-minute type of thing, maybe a little bit more, depending on how many issues you might run into. But anyways, as you can see, I have the two wires connected. USB-C for this, since I'm using the battery compartment to hide everything. And then that's the motion, the transmitter. There's the receiver. So I'm just gonna look over there, and then actually, let me go up here. I'll wave my hand in front of the motion sensor so you can see. So you see that. So that's essentially triggering the fog machine. So, and you can hear it clicking as well. That's the little relay switch. That's just clicking on and off. But all you really need is that click a few times and it'll start the fog machine. So this you can mount on one direction of your home, the other on the other direction. When people or kids are walking by for trick-or-treating, they'll trigger on either one of the motion sensors. I have two, and they'll trigger their remote to start the fog. So I'll wait for it to get a little darker, and then I'll show you how that works. Okay. All right, so right here is where I have the receiver and the remote plugged in. And I have the two sensors. One is right by the front door, and the other one is I mounted it on a tree. So let me actually go from the back. Actually, I can have my wife back in front. Oh, hey, cat. Hey, you wanna walk up to the steps like you're a regular trick-or-treater?
Okay, ready. We gotta go say trick-or-treat. Okay.
So you'll see, I have one of the sensors right there. There it is. So as soon as it got triggered, you saw the blue light. You hear the fog machine go off.
We get our candy. And we go, thank you.
And there goes the fog machine. And then the second one is right here on the tree. So you can see, same thing. And then we get our little creeping fog. Okay. Usually kind of regenerates pretty quick. Let's see if I trigger this one. If it triggers the fog machine again. Okay. No, I think the fog machine takes a minute or two for it to get back up to temperature. But there you go. Motion sensed fog. And it's fairly straightforward. I think the light for the fog machine just went back on. Hey cat, walk this way. So we'll trigger this one. There it is. And that starts the fog machine again. Yes, Papa. So there's your simple way to get motion sense on your fairly cheap fog machine. All right, good luck.